Good evening. Welcome to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. Here at Expat Insights, we take external views of internal successes by foreigners, expats, and immigrants who have made Philippines their home. Tonight on Expat Insights, our guest is a gentleman called Harold Wolf. Harold Wolf is originally Dutch, but he's really a global citizen today. He's lived across the world over the last so many years, and today he has made Philippines his home. And his title today is Commodore Harold Wolf. He works with the Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary and has been in the Philippines for nearly 15 years or more. So we're going to talk about protecting the borders of Asian countries, especially the Philippines from his perspective, but really guarding the borders and protecting the borders of our countries in the Asia-Pacific region. So Commodore Harold Wolf, welcome to Expat Insights.
Raju, thank you for inviting me. A pleasure to be here on Expat Insights.
Define Commodore. What's Commodore? I mean, Captain, General, Lieutenant?
Well, actually, I was a bit fortunate with my background that I was asked to join the Coast Guard Auxiliary back about, I think it was 11 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago, with the rank of Commander at that time.
Commander?
Commander.
That's like the captain, a ship's commander.
Yeah, Commander, right. Then I was promoted to Captain.
Hmm?
And at the end, I was promoted to Commodore.
Oh, so Commodore's bigger than
Yes.
Commander and Captain.
Right, right.
Oh,
And the only two expats in the Philippines that carry the rank, the highest rank of Commodore.
Right.
Which is a friend of mine, Bob Lane, and myself.
Yeah, I think I saw Bob Lynn's picture on the website. American man?
American man, yes.
American
yes.
man. And you are originally Dutch?
Originally Dutch, born and raised in, well, born in Holland,
Yeah.
but raised partially in Costa Rica, as my parents back, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but
Yeah, don't.
in 1954 we moved to Costa Rica, Central America, and beautiful country.
Yeah.
Then my parents sent me to the United States. I went to Georgia Military Academy where I studied, and I went back to Costa Rica. I got my engineering degree in Costa Rica.
Wow.
Went back to the U.S., got registered at the University of Arizona in Tucson to get an MBA. Now I live in the Philippines.
This is your home.
This is my home. Right.
I'm going to ask you a lot about your life in the Philippines and how you perceive the life in the Philippines itself, no?
Sure.
But I just need a little tip on Costa Rica. They claim it to be the Switzerland of South America. Is that right?
It is, actually.
Yeah.
Costa Rica, back in those days, and still today, is a country with no army. They have what they call the Guardia Civil, National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very peaceful country, mostly Europeans at that time. Now, of course, a lot of Americans are going to Costa Rica and retiring, but when we went to Costa Rica, it was the most beautiful, peaceful country.
Right.
Still is.
Yeah.
There's never been a major conflict in Costa Rica. Way before we got there were some conflicts between Costa Rica and Nicaragua and so on.
Yeah.
But all of that, it's a very, very peaceful, lovely country, beautiful people. And I'm telling coming back to the Philippines, my roots, when I think of the Philippines,
Yeah.
I think of my happiest days in my childhood living in Costa Rica.
Ah,
The same character of people.
Right.
The whole geography is basically the same.
Similar.
It's very similar. Yeah, you have volcanoes, you have coffee farms, you have beautiful beaches.
Right.
And people, it's the Spanish heritage. People always smiling.
Right.
You're always welcome.
Right,
And
right.
that's what I love here about the Philippines.
A
as
couple
well.
of friends of mine, Penelope Poole and her husband, I'm forgetting her name, American, both of them, and they just moved to Costa Rica. They wanted to come and make Philippines their home, but they decided to go to Costa Rica. And she says it's really a peaceful and a happy country.
It is. Yes.
So no cocaine, no corruption, nothing in Costa Rica.
Never got involved
Not like
in any of
Colombia
it,
and
not-
Mexico. I'm sorry.
No.
No?
No.
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 All right, Harold, let's come to Philippines because that's the country of our love today, isn't
Yes,
it? Yeah?
yes.
So what brought you here to the Philippines?
Okay, Raju, I started, well, I traveled all over the world, and probably as part of my Dutch upbringing, and maybe I have some gypsy in
The
me,
Flying
but I love
Dutch.
to,
The
the
Flying
Flying
Dutchman,
Dutchman, I love to travel.
Yeah.
I tried to make things happen. I was working for BHP Petroleum in Hawaii. BHP Petroleum was about ready to sell the refinery to an entity out of Alaska. I wanted to stay with BHP, big Australian company.
Yeah.
So I came to the Philippines in 1991 or 92, basically by invitation of some friends, and to go diving. I
Just
spent
holiday
2 weeks
and fun,
diving.
yeah,
I went
yeah,
all
yeah.
over Boracay, which at that time I believe was the most beautiful place in the world.
Right.
There were not 10,000 tea shops and
Yeah.
things, but it was a beautiful place to relax. I fell in love with this country. When I went back to Hawaii, I called my boss up in Australia, said, I want to move to the Philippines. You have an office in the Philippines, I can help.
Right, right.
So this went on for about 6 months, back and forth, and finally one day I told my wife that, honey, we're moving to the Philippines.
Right, right.
So I took over as BHP country manager in the Philippines.
BHP.
BHP, Broken Hill Proprietors, BHP Engineering, because BHP, Billington, there are many.
Not the oil company, not the BHP.
BHP carries several branches or several units, which is BHP Petroleum, BHP Mining, BHP Steel, there's BHP worldwide.
Wow.
With at that time were 64,000 people in 50-some countries in the world. But BHP Engineering got dissolved at the end after I was here for 2 years, and it was also by a Canadian company. And I asked my boss in Australia, I said, can I move with BHP? I said, no, we're retrenching a whole bunch of Australians. How can I get a half Dutchman, half American, half I don't know what to go to Australia?
Right, right.
So I thought, well, let's start my own company here, right or wrong. And we started that in 2000. We've done quite well. We've had our ups and downs, but I enjoy working here in the Philippines. They say it's difficult to work in the Philippines. Maybe it is, but I found it very easy because I like people, I talk to people, I intermingle with people, and I've made it a success.
So I'm tempted to ask you, which I usually do to most guests of mine, what is the most fun thing for you in the Philippines, based on the current campaign of the Department of Foreign Affairs? But I'm not going to ask you that question. I want to know what's a day in the life of Harold Wolf in the Philippines. Describe a happy day for you here.
Well, to me, a happy day is just about every day. I mean, happy to be with my family, my wife, living close by here in Makati, being able to walk to Green Hill, have a cup of coffee, go to the office, meet with people. I enjoy people in general. I enjoy traveling down south. That makes me happy, even though people say it's very dangerous down south. But to me, the southern part of the Philippines, you have some beautiful people there too.
Southern part of the Philippines. Right. That's Mindoro down.
In Mindanao, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, those areas.
You're going to tell us about those places,
I'll tell you about those.
Yeah.
Yes.
So today you are the chairman of NDEC, which is the company you formed after BHP. You are a Commodore with PCGA.
And the Coast Guard Auxiliary, yes.
Coast Guard Auxiliary, that's Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary, that's it. You'll tell us about that. You're also the chairman of the Philippines New Zealand Business Council. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
We'll talk about that.
Let's come back to our subject matter today, that is you being with PCGA, and we talking about our national borders and security and safety. Give us a big picture on what is it that you do.
Okay, basically with the PCGA we started back in 2009. At that time I was in charge of international affairs with the National Command.
With the PCGA.
With the PCGA.
PCGA is Philippines Coast Guard Auxiliary. These are civilians.
All civilians.
All civilians.
All volunteers.
In the Philippines.
All civilians, volunteers.
10,000 strong.
At that time we were 10,000 strong. I don't know what the numbers are now. They keep fluctuating. It could be less, could be more. But it's all volunteers, people that are doing the same thing as I do and many other people, is to protect our waters, make our place safer place, saving lives at sea, bottom line, and protecting the environment. And it's all volunteers. Nobody gets paid. Everything comes out of our own pocket. It's a wonderful organization, really.
10,000 people, and you guys are in uniform. And you have a structure, a system.
This is structure very similar to that of the Coast Guard. It's mirroring the Coast Guard. With the 10 district, we have 10 district. Except our national director is called a director, not a commodore or commander, as in the Coast Guard. The squadron captains, they're called squadron directors. But in 2009, we decided, and this, can I go back to the whole story on how this started? Okay.
You're the guest.
Okay.
You're the guest. You're the chief
Just
guest.
tell me when to stop, okay?
There's no other guest.
Okay, okay. At a national convention in the United States by the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, and by the way, I'm also honored that I was awarded honorary lifetime membership in the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. But at that time, I was very impressed on what they were doing in Caribbean. The Caribbean Initiative, it is known, that's all the countries in the Caribbean talking one language, which is protecting lives at sea, helping each other. I'm not talking about languages as we speak, like French or English or whatever, but it's the language of saving lives, the language of rescue operations, the language of saving the environment in general. And I liked that idea, and I thought, in Asia, we're the same. We're in the Philippines, we're in the middle. We have all those countries around us. Why can't we do something like that?
So the Caribbean Initiative, inspired by the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, comprised of how many countries in the Caribbean?
Every country in the Caribbean, every island in the Caribbean, basically. And I cannot...
Dozens of them. I've been to a few,
Yes. So we were in Irvine, California at the U.S. Coast Guard Convention, and I brought up that question. And Admiral Commodore Tucker at that time said, Harold, we've been trying to do that for several years, but we haven't been very successful. Why don't you do that?
Just like that?
Just like that. And to me that was, well, that's a challenge. Why not? I'm going to do it. I got together with some people over here to help us, and we formed a group together, and we decided, okay, the first thing we need to do is to get other countries on board on this. Let's have a meeting in Manila. Oh,
this was 10 years ago?
No, 2009.
Oh, 4 years ago.
Actually, started 2008 or 2007.
But PCGA already existed?
Oh, yes, 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 yeah.
How old is PCGA?
I think it started in 1971 and 1972 at the Manila Yacht Club. That's where it originated. Honestly, I don't have the whole history
of it,
You know, it's called senior moments. I'm forgetting some things.
Me too, me too. Yeah, me too, me too.
But it was a challenge, and I was told that this was tried with Australia. They tried to do it, they failed. We've been working at this for 6 years. So I got in touch with Commodore Ray Campbell of the Australian Volunteer Coast Guard. And he said, let's do it, let's put something together. So he helped me. Some of the people in the Coast Guard Auxiliary members, they all helped. And for the first time in Asia, we had a meeting here in Manila at the hotel on Rojas Boulevard, the Traders Hotel, with representatives of every country in Asia, including also was the U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. We had the Australian Volunteer Coast Guard, New Zealand Volunteer Coast Guard, with representatives from Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, you name it.
Wow.
And that was the first time that we had everybody in one room talking basically the same language. It was not designed to sell anything, but basically to get to know each other and how can we move forward from here. And
no, I just want us to pause because we're coming to a break, Harold. But before we pause, you can just probably end with the chief main objective of bringing all these countries together in a sentence or two. Then we'll take a break and come back and describe the pros and cons of it. Quickly,
the whole concept was to get all the countries in Asia to talk the same language to save lives at sea
similar to
and environmental concerns.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we are coming back and talking to Mr. Commodore Harold Wolf, and we're talking about how we can integrate the border safety and environmental protection in the Asia-Pacific region. So stay with us, and this is Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. Good evening. Welcome back to Expert in Science. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. We are talking to Commodore Harold Wolf, and we are talking about protecting the borders of our nation and also integrating the job of protecting and nurturing the borders of all Asian nations. And Harold is giving us insights on that as of now. So, Harold, let's get back to what we were talking about. Yeah. Your point was that we were integrating all these efforts. Yeah.
We're trying to integrate, get all the countries on board on this program. It is very difficult to break those borders because every country wants to do their own thing, basically. But they all want to get involved in something like this. There's a very big interest, and it's growing even more. Even though we do have a lot of obstacles, one of the obstacles is, of course, finances. You know, everything is going. At this point, everything is coming out of the pocket of Commodore Ray Tucker and myself.
Oh my, that's in the Philippines.
That's Ray Tucker is from Australia, and basically we're co-chairing this project.
Wait, so you're saying that to create this Asian community, what you call that Asian Pacific Network of Maritime Safety? Yeah. Is that correct?
Get back. Yeah, it's the Asian Network of Maritime Safety and Environmental Concerns. And for short, we call it APN.
Okay.
So let's call it APN. Make
okay,
it easier.
APN.
Yeah.
But let me hear it one more time. Asian...
Asia Pacific Network.
Asia Pacific Network for
Maritime Safety.
Maritime Safety.
And Environmental Concerns.
Okay, cool. So APN.
APN,
yeah.
Yes.
It's privately funded by two people? Just two?
Two people right now.
Correct.
It started that the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary made a motion to form this organization.
Yeah.
It was seconded by New Zealand.
Right.
And so the APN was actually started as a brand new organization outside of the Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary or any other entity. It's as a neutral entity in the middle, based with headquarters in the Philippines.
Here.
Basically, the Secretariat will always be based in the Philippines. That was the agreement done. As basically we're the largest archipelago here in this area. We're in the middle, and we're the only country that has a Coast Guard Auxiliary unit. So we could help other countries to learn from our models that what we have done. And going back a little bit, we're looking at countries to start either auxiliary units, but not necessarily auxiliary units. If they want to call themselves lifesavers or seafarers or sea vigilantes of the sea. Of course, nobody carries arms. We don't get involved in any of the legal aspect. It's basically helping other people.
Oh, yeah, great, yeah.
If there's a catastrophe in India,
or tsunami in Japan.
Or tsunami in Japan, that means that here's a flag, guys. We're ready to go. Let's go and help. Let's go and assist. We're all in one in this.
Right. We're together in this.
We're speaking the same language, saving lives at sea and properties at sea.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. Australia is working very hard with us on...
You mentioned there are no other auxiliary associations except Philippines, but here it says Australia has one.
Okay, yeah,
Australia has, besides the other 10 countries, Australia does
what I mean right here in this part of Asia.
Okay,
right? There are other groups, okay? Australia has a very, very strong auxiliary unit. They're not funded by the government.
Yeah.
It's almost like a private center.
Amazing.
They have a lot of money. They're buying boats. They have their own boats. They have people that are on staff full time. New Zealand operates a little bit different. New Zealand gets, it's also a private organization, incorporated. New Zealand has more than 6,000 volunteers. They only have 3 or 4 that are paid, which is the staff in the office. The chairman of the board, the marketing person, and they're very well supported by some of the oil companies, some of the logging companies, other people that are putting money to help. They have brand new vessels, they have helicopters, they're completely self-sufficient.
Right.
In the Philippines, we are on our own. Everything is our money. Whatever we do, it basically
for nearly 40 years you have been on your own. PCGA has been around for 40 years plus and on its own, and it's such a professional organization. That's kudos to them.
We still come under the Philippine Coast Guard.
Right.
and it's part of the Department of Transportation.
But you
and
don't dip into
Communication.
the government treasury for support?
No,
Yeah.
no, there's no support.
Yeah.
All the support comes from outside.
Wow,
All the
wow,
support.
wow.
Going back to the Asian countries, okay, I mentioned the Philippines, mentioned Australia,
Yeah.
mentioned New Zealand.
Right.
China has what is called China Rescue and Salvage Corporation.
Right, it has. Yeah.
And they're out of Hong Kong. They're
Mhm.
controlled basically out of Beijing, what I understand. They are also invited to join us, and we have had conversations with them.
Mhm.
And it looks like there could be some very good synergies among them as
So your
well.
challenges are with the other countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, and Thailand.
Korea is just forming an auxiliary right now.
Right, right, right.
And there's a member of the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary who is stationed in Korea,
Yeah.
who is actually helping to develop that.
Mhm.
I made a trip to Korea a couple of years ago to meet with some of the instigators of this, and they're very open to that idea. Compared to other countries, you have a little bit more of a problem because they're not structured as we are here in the
Well,
Philippines.
some of them are new republics. Some
Yeah,
of them
new.
are, yeah.
When I discussed this with the maritime people from Vietnam, they said, this is a wonderful idea, but how do we do that?
But we're busy already, yeah.
We don't, well, basically because of the system, is that we don't know about volunteerism. What's
Yeah,
that?
yeah, well, yeah, they're
So
brand new, of course, yeah.
I've been invited to go to Hanoi and do another presentation, which hopefully in the next year or so I can do.
Harold, how big is the challenge of maritime protection and environmental safety? How huge is it for a volunteer organization just like the one that you're forming? How messy is our situation? Sorry to use that word, messy. I'm sure there is, because I see some borders and there's plastic and there's dead fish and there's dirt and garbage out there. I'm sure it must be all across Asia. How huge is it?
It is a challenge, Raju. It is a challenge, and I don't know how we can overcome it.
Yeah.
And basically, most of it is through education, I think.
That's the first thing,
I
awareness.
think that's
yeah.
the first step.
Yeah.
Not only here in the Philippines, but in other countries around the world. It's educating people of what marine life is. What the
Yeah.
dangers are of throwing trash into the oceans
Right, right.
or into the rivers and so on.
Yeah.
You know, how to protect our marine life. You
Yeah.
know, some people don't think about that. They think, what can we get out of it today? But they don't
Correct.
think about our children. And this is a continuous challenge, is to teaching people that all of this is dangerous. And fortunately, a lot of the countries are working very hard on this.
Yeah.
The Coast Guard here is working very, very hard. The auxiliary, I understand, also is working hard. In Cambodia, we're trying to set up an auxiliary.
Yeah.
And then we're interested in patrolling the Mekong River. During the days of the river festival, that's when actually most accidents happen in Cambodia.
Right. Yeah.
During the river festival, thousands of people get killed.
Yeah.
They're drowned because they get drunk. They're on the boats, up and down, or standing on bridges.
I have a thought coming to my mind, but let me ask you that question now. Environment protection has been up and about for the last so many decades already now, 40, 50, 60 years. We've been talking about it, no? But hand in hand with the awareness that global organizations are building towards this, plus given the fact that there are others who are unaware of it, are we winning the race in saving the environment? Are we losing it? What is the proportion of saving it and damaging it today in the last 40, 50 years, especially in these 10, 12 neighborhoods?
A hot question, Raju. Very hot question. Very
hot
difficult.
question, yeah.
Very difficult question. We have the Coast Guard Auxiliary throughout the Philippines has their cleanup days.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're only done once a year, during the International Cleanup Day.
Wow.
This is an operation that requires daily cleanup, because I've seen this in Manila Bay. You clean up Manila Bay, you go back 2 days later, it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, wow.
And that is a shame. That again is education.
Yeah.
Coming to education, maybe policing it farther upstream a little bit, up in the rivers, stopping people from throwing their trash in the rivers that eventually end up in Manila
Recently,
Bay.
I took a trip to Taktak Falls. Do you know what Taktak Falls is? Taktak Falls is a little waterfall up in Antipolo. It's a historical place. It's a popular site in the Philippines, and 50, 60 years ago, it was a place people used to go and sing and dance and have picnics at. So I just happened to take a Sunday off and drive there, and it it smelled of rot. And I went and asked a few people. I said, "What's happened?" It's a beautiful place, just here in Antipolo. Seems like there are lots of residentials that dump their waste there, and they just can't stop it. Not the barangay, not the town mayor. They work at it. So it's a sad sight inside the city. So that probably is a sight across the whole nation and the region.
It is basically, and I don't know why it is that way, if it is cultural or what. I'll give you a good example. I was at a house of a very close friend of mine in Jolo. I was staying at his house.
Zulu? Zulu. Zulu, you said?
In Sulu, but
Sulu,
the
yeah.
town is Jolo.
What's the name of the town?
Jolo. J-O-L-O. Jolo.
Jolo, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You've probably seen it in the papers. It's always in the papers of having something there.
Something's always happening
Something
there.
going on.
Yeah.
But his wife has done the most beautiful garden.
Okay.
Beautiful grass, nicely trimmed. And we had a meeting with some of the engineers there.
Yeah.
Some of them came, and I will never forget this. The guy pulled out a pack of cigarettes out of his pocket, put a cigarette in his mouth. It was the last cigarette was in his pack. He just crumpled it and threw it right there.
Right there in a beautiful manicured
And I looked
lawn
at my
garden.
friend, and I said, "You gonna let him do that?" So he called his mate to come and pick it up. I said, "Wait a minute. Why don't you teach him to take that and put it in a garbage can?"
That is
He
sad.
said, "No, just let him. It's okay.
sad.
It's okay."
That is sad. That is
So,
sad.
again, he had the opportunity to probably yell at this guy, make him pick it up, take it to a trash can.
Not just
and
probably
he
yell
did
at the
it.
guy, maybe set an example and
Set an example.
bend down and pick it up
Right.
in front of his
But
guests,
this
and the guests
happens-
would learn a
This
lesson.
happens so much. You see people clean their houses beautifully. They sweep
Yeah.
and they clean all the garbage is outside.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have a system here where trucks go and pick up garbage continuously. And,
That's the start of it.
Yeah,
that's the start of it. That's the start of it is a habit
Yeah.
of throwing stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, education, I think, is the number one item. We have to educate not only the adults, but we have to educate our children.
Yeah. How about other safety in terms of accidents, piracy, crossing national borders, fishing, besides messing up? How are we winning that race?
That is military security, and unfortunately, we cannot get involved. We can be actually the eyes and ears for agencies, but we cannot go and stop a fishing vessel.
Oh, you can't be a civilian cop. You cannot say, "Hold, let me read you your rights." No, you
we
can't do
cannot.
that. Yeah.
Well, even in Hawaii, and I've been involved in several scenes in Honolulu, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In Honolulu, if we see boaters that are drunk, we can come beside them and say, "Hey, go back to the harbor. If you stay around here, we call the Coast Guard." We cannot apprehend them.
Oh,
But all what we do is one call on the radio, and the Coast Guard vessel is there to apprehend them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, here we don't have the
relationship.
capability. Well, we have the relationship, but if we're in the middle of the ocean,
The response time.
how do we get a Coast Guard vessel there? You know, they don't have enough vessels. They should have enough, more vessels.
So what are the plans, current plans of APN today? What are you, what's in the future?
Well,
the future?
we had scheduled several meetings to be held here in the Philippines. One
Yeah.
was in 2011, I'm sorry, 2011.
Yeah.
That meeting did not come through. We did not have everything put together. Our
Yeah.
fault, basically.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not very well prepared at that time.
Yeah.
And still seeking other countries to come aboard.
Yeah.
We have commitments of about 6 countries to come aboard, which we're a step closer.
Which would be
and yet
Australia,
we're
New
still
Zealand. The 6 would be Australia, New Zealand, Philippines.
Thailand,
Yeah.
Indonesia,
Yeah.
Korea,
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah.
They're all looking at coming on board.
Right.
And even Taiwan is looking coming
Yeah,
on
it's
board
game.
now.
It's game, yeah.
Taiwan is game.
Mhm.
Of course, we practice a one China policy, which becomes difficulty, but being an international agency as the Asia Pacific is, we can reach to Taiwan. We don't break any barriers or any protocol.
We don't rub Chinese the wrong way.
No.
Yeah.
And basically it's a non-political, it's a strictly volunteer
Yeah.
organization. And what we want to do is maybe we cannot go to Japan to help the Japanese,
Right.
okay? But maybe one of our men can go to Japan and assist in some small way.
Some unit can go down.
Or we can learn from them, you know, through emails or whatever. We have done this. This is a good model. Let's work for us. Let's bring this model over here, and let's see if we can work it here in this country. So basically, it's an exchange of ideas between different countries, and see, when we put it all together, how does it work?
Harold, your challenge, and it's a good initiative that APN is taking up, and it's bound to succeed, no? But what can the audience that is watching here today, and some of them might have the power and the resources to do though, how can they help you? What do you need from people watching this show, or anybody watching this show? What do you need, the panahon in Tagalog they call it, what do you need Providence to do for you?
Well, support at this moment. We're not looking for money. I mean, eventually that we will need that if we're really going to expand. But right now, we are looking for people that want to volunteer, that want to be part of this, that have no problem to go. Let me go one step ahead.
Ahead or back? Ahead.
Both ways, yeah.
Okay.
There's another country right now that has actually asked us, help us to set up an auxiliary unit. We want a model, like the Coast Guard Auxiliary that you have in the Philippines, but a little bit different. It's an island country. I cannot mention the name at this time.
Don't mention the name, okay.
But Australia is very interested in already sending people there. And I'm working through the consular group and the embassy group to allow some people in the Philippines to go down there. This is in the plan, to set up a unit there. That will bring us even closer now to set up the model that we want to do, is to get all of the countries, all of the islands in Asia talking the same language.
So that's what you're asking is only for commitment, sweat equity rather than money. You want people to become aware and probably roll up their sleeves and say, I'm with you in this.
Yes.
Where do they go? Do they come to you? Is there a place they go to?
They
PCGA?
can call. You can give my cell number out.
Okay. We'll announce your website at the end of the show.
Sure.
Okay, so they just come to you and say, we are willing to help, we want to become Coast Guards, and we want to join the APN and support it in the future.
To join Coast Guard Auxiliary, they have to go through the Coast Guard Auxiliary,
PCGA.
Which is by invitation only.
Yeah,
this is the Asia Pacific Network.
So the APN, they can join anytime?
Yes.
And no charge, no nothing, so no cash involved, just
actually any organization that is willing to assist as a volunteer can become part of the APM. They don't have to be the Coast Guard Auxiliaries. There's a group in the Bicol region, the Savers, they're called. They want to join already, and I've discussed this with them. They're very up and going. They're all volunteers. They don't want to join the Coast Guard Auxiliary. They want to have their own little group.
All right.
And they call themselves the Savers.
All right. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to support what Harold and his friends are doing in the Asia Pacific region, you can look us up. We'll give you the website in a minute. And that's the APN. If you want to support, if you have CSR initiatives you want to take, this is the place to go. And we'll come back, we'll take a break and come back and talk to Harold about just about culture and how this can be taken up further. So I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. We'll take a 1 minute break and come back and talk to you. Good evening, welcome back to Expert in Science, and we are talking to Commodore Harold Wolf of PCGA and also the chairman of APN, right, Harold?
Chairman of APN.
APN, and he was telling us about how they're integrating their efforts in protecting the environment and the safety of Philippine borders and the other countries in the Asia Pacific region. Harold, so we are done with talking about protecting the borders and what APN is all about, no?
Right.
Is there something that you still want to put across about APN to the audience? Is there something that we missed asking you? Or
basically support us.
That's it. That's it. Support us.
We're looking for people. We're looking for human beings.
But that's really a good thing you're doing, and I didn't know about this. Maybe I can, if I get the time out, I'll come and join you guys.
Please do. Yeah.
Now, Harold, you're also, besides being the chairman of NDEC, you're also the chairman of the Philippine-New Zealand Business Council, which is something that you've newly taken up, no?
No, actually.
So you want to just talk about this a bit?
Yeah, this is the end of my term, actually.
How long were you the chairman?
I've been with the Philippine New Zealand Business Council as a director for about 8 years. as the chairman probably about 4 years or 3 years. I can't remember. They keep
There is
re-electing
a term.
me.
There is no term in culture.
Well, every year we re-elect the officers, and every year we get re-elected. Every year I was told, just stay where you are.
Yeah.
So this year, actually, somebody else is going to take it over.
I was the
I'm
chairman of
going
the
to
Indian
stay.
Council. There
Yeah.
was no term. I had
Yeah.
to shove down my chairmanship into somebody else's throat. I said, you take responsibility.
Well, that's what I did just recently,
Okay.
yes.
Bahala ka, bahala ka.
So now I'm the vice chairman.
So just a bit brief, because I'm going to have the New Zealand ambassador here on this chair in a couple of weeks. No? Briefly, how are we doing with New Zealand, Philippines and New Zealand? What's our relationship today?
I think the relationship between the Philippines and New Zealand is a very good relationship. During the Business Council, we're actually assisting a lot of the New Zealand companies or New Zealand individuals that are first coming to the Philippines to set up business here, or once they're here, to assist them to interact with each other. And there is an organization very similar, which is the New Zealand Philippine Business Council,
Correct.
which is in
Yeah,
New Zealand.
yeah, that's
who's
usually
doing
the case,
same,
yeah.
Yeah, doing the same thing for Filipino businessmen
correct.
that are in New Zealand.
Has trade improved? Has cultural exchange improved?
I think it all has helped. It all has improved. We're a little bit different than a lot of the business councils.
Okay.
We meet, our executive meetings are at the embassy. Our,
Lucky you,
our
that's fun.
address is at the embassy, the New Zealand embassy.
Suerte kayo.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of our events are held at the residence of the New Zealand ambassador.
Ah, there you
So
go.
basically, we have it made a bit different than
Cozy little
other. Yes,
council.
yes. We are fluctuating between 80 and 100 members. I think there are more Filipinos than New Zealanders. They're all mostly business people that are doing business either here
Large
or there.
companies?
Some large
Besides the
companies.
ANZ Bank? There's the ANZ Bank here, right?
Yes,
Besides that?
ANZ Bank. Yes, they are members. The people from Frontera are members. Most of the milk that you drink today, from Nestle and all of that, most of that comes from New Zealand. Most of the timbers, actually, when you buy pallets and so on, that comes from New Zealand.
Wood?
Wood, yes.
Oh, good. So we are not chopping off trees in the Philippines.
I
We're
hope
doing
not.
that in New
well,
Zealand.
they're still doing that, but
okay, it's not a nice thing to say good,
No,
because
but
we should not be chopping down trees
Right.
anywhere in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's also a big New Zealand company that's doing a lot of reforestation here in the Philippines.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah.
And I let the ambassador talk about that when he comes here. But basically, we're helping both countries, and I fell in love with New Zealand. Being Dutch, I guess Dutch people are accepted anywhere in the world.
You're a great cocktail of cultures, aren't
no,
you?
Actually, what happened is years and years ago, I think it was 6 ambassadors ago, the wife was Dutch or Dutch Indonesian, I cannot remember, and they said, why don't you join us? I said, okay, but I'm not a Kiwi. I said, that's okay, you're a Dutchman.
Right,
So I joined them, and the following year they said, we want you on the board.
Wow.
Now, this whole thing it's a wheel, keeps turning, because the new ambassador of New Zealand to the Philippines, his mother is Dutch.
Oh, so it's a happy...
So it's a happy circle.
You guys are going Dutch.
Yeah, we're going Dutch.
Harold, let's talk about New Zealand some other time. I really want to
Sure.
know. It's a beautiful country, and probably would you do us the honor of coming back here with the ambassador and being a guest with him here?
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to, Raju.
So let me close this show with, of course, wishing you good luck with the efforts at APN. Yeah?
Thank you.
What I would like is a few insights from you as an expat who is such a global person, such a cocktail of cultures. No? Give us some insights for my audience who are young and sometimes traveling. How is this cultural exchange happening across the world, and what's your picture of the world today? A person who's traveled and done so many good things. Where's the world? What's the world coming to?
Well, actually, people need to talk to people. People need to travel. People need to learn other cultures to understand other cultures.
Right.
We can sit in the back of a room somewhere and point fingers at other cultures.
Yeah.
It's because we don't understand them.
Right.
And I think today, young people that have the ability to travel, like Rotary International, they have the student exchange program.
Right. Yeah.
Those are students, young kids from the Philippines.
I know
that
that's
go to other
Isaac or
countries.
something. Isaac, yeah.
And they learn the culture, and it's so important to learn different cultures.
Right.
Just
We have
because we
different
don't,
perceptions.
just because we don't agree with a culture, it's because we don't know the culture.
Oh, okay.
And we're a melting pot of all cultures, basically.
Here in the Philippines or globally?
Throughout the world, globally, but more so also in the Philippines.
Right.
I mean, you have expats from every country here in the Philippines.
What's your technique been? You have moved from Netherlands to US to Costa Rica to Hawaii to Korea, Indonesia, Philippines. What's your rule of thumb to survive, to adjust, and to grow in culture?
Talk to people,
Yeah.
learn their culture, and be with them.
Just get into the pit.
Get
often.
into the pit, yeah.
Is there anything else besides getting into the pit?
Don't try to think on how you used to live or how you live back home or what you have in Europe or in the US or in Australia, how we live there.
Yeah.
How can you live here now in this country? Learn and accept the culture that you live in. Respect the culture. Respect the local people.
So
you know?
open.
Be
Stay
open, yes,
flexible, and
yes.
respective.
I have seen cases where actually, and this happened many years ago in Yugoslavia, where somebody said, oh, back at home we have refrigerators this big, over here you have a refrigerator that big, you know.
You say, shut up.
I went to this
Shut
guy and I
up.
shoved him. I said, just keep your mouth shut.
Use it or forget it.
This guy was very happy. He just got this, he went to Germany to buy this little refrigerator, was so happy with it. And he had a party at his house to show us this refrigerator. And here was this expat telling him that at home we have bigger ones. You don't do that. You have to accept, you have to learn their culture.
Your advice for the youth of the Philippines who's becoming so much more exposed to global cultures because of BPOs and offshore industries and outsourcing industries. There's so much, and there's so much need for understanding cultures. What are your tips for the youth of the Philippines? Given that you are now conversant with the Filipino culture, what are your tips for them besides being open, flexible, and respectful? For the youth, those are in this country, those who have never tested or tried another culture.
Talk to foreigners. Go through the internet. Do searches on the internet. Learn what other cultures are doing, how they act. A lot of times we get accused here of being too forward. That's our culture. Okay.
Sorry, being too forward. That's
too forward. And I'm telling the youth now, and I can see that even people in my office, they will actually corner me and tell me that I'm wrong.
These are engineering and that.
Yes. Before they wouldn't do that. Before it was like yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. No, they have to learn to stand on their own, to express themselves too as well. You know.
How about succeeding in business? NDEC, you've been with BHP, you've succeeded with NDEC. How about succeeding in business and life, Howard? Harold,
again, you know, my whole model that I have created basically is talking to people, going to the provinces, meeting people, not only the president of the country or a senator or a congressman, but meet even the barangay captain.
Yeah.
He is the king in his barrio, in his that's his kingdom. You need to talk to that man. And I think a lot of expats fail to do that, to go down to the roots and talk to the local people instead of talking to the higher ups. The higher ups don't talk down usually.
You do get the information from the ground.
I go straight to, I mean, when I go to Jolo, I stay in the villages. I live with the people there, and everybody tells me, isn't it too dangerous? I said, no. Those
What villages are you talking about?
In Jolo or in Basilan.
Jolo, yeah.
I stayed in Basilan for 6 months, and of course I was at a military camp. But I would go out and mingle with people. In Jolo, I go to the local restaurants. I eat with them, the local food. I mingle with them. I become their friend.
What is the ambience in Jolo? Is it like a
Shaky.
loose, spread out town, flat, open? No, I'm not talking about ambience. I'm talking about the lay of the land. Is it like very provincial? Is it quite city-like?
Actually,
is it like Cavite?
Probably, yeah. Actually, the Sulu Islands are some of the most beautiful islands in the Philippines. Beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
Very nice fruits, fresh fish. I don't eat fish in Manila. But when I'm in Zamboanga and Jolo, I eat fish there.
Wow.
Because it tastes fresh, it's good, you can feel it's healthy, the air is clean. Actually, those are some beautiful parts of this country. And,
Oh.
and I wish that more people go and visit once the security issues are cleared up. But it's a beautiful part
Which
of the
should
world.
be very soon. Which should be very
Hopefully,
soon.
yes, yes.
So Harold, I'm at the end of my interview with you about protecting the borders of Philippines and the Asian Pacific region. And I thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for sharing insights. Good luck with APN. Now, if there's any rule of thumb, I know you're almost retired and living a happy life. What's the future looking for you in the Philippines? How does the future look for you in the Philippines? What are your dreams and hopes?
This is my home.
And
I'm here to stay.
what do you want to add or take away?
I don't think I could take away anything. Actually, I've been discussing with an attorney
Your wife.
to
No.
become a citizen.
Yeah.
Very happy with my wife. We do a lot of travels together. We have a beautiful life here. We love it. I don't think I can take anything away.
Harold, thank you very much. If
Thank
there's
you.
anything you want to say to your Coast Guard friends or to people from the New Zealand community, the next 60 seconds is yours, and that's your camera, and man, you can wish them good luck or invite them over to APN. And if you want to announce your website, this is the time.
Yeah, okay. Well, join us in promoting the Asia Pacific Network. Help us to do more volunteerism. You can contact me, or actually I don't have a website basically, but I can send my email, which is wolfhm, that's Whiskey Oscar Lima Foxtrot,
Like in Wolf. Like in
yes,
Wolf, yeah.
hotelmama@gmail.com. Send me your interest, send me your questions. I'll be if I'm able to answer all of those questions, I will immediately. If not, I'll try to find the resources. To my friends in the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary, congratulations for what you guys have been doing over the years. I am still part of with you guys, and I'm there to help wherever we can help. Thank you.
Salamat so much, and good luck and mabuhay with everything you do. So thank you for being on Expat Insights.
Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching Expat Insights. I'm your host Raju Mandhyan. Next week on Expat Insights, we'll have guests from Malaysia, a young couple, and they are going to talk about how to succeed in small businesses across the Asia Pacific region. There's a couple who are consultants and they're very successful. They'll be here next week at Expat Insights. And enjoy, and we'll see you next week. Good night and mabuhay.